Welcome to the Front End Nerdery Podcast, a podcast about front end development and design. I'm your host, Todd Libby. My guest today is one half of Mule Design, author, speaker, and all around terrific guy. Don't let anybody know that. Mike Montero. Mike, how are you today?
Hey, Todd, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I didn't, wow, finally, two white guys on a podcast.
I
I thought
know.
I was never going to see the day.
I didn't think so either.
How long have we waited for this? Groundbreaking.
Years. It's been
Could
years
we-
in the making.
Oh my God, could we talk about tech too? Because then we're just like lining up the groundbreaking accomplishments.
Yeah.
Okay, two
Yeah,
white guys talking about tech.
Yeah. I want this to be an award-winning episode.
I mean, it's groundbreaking. Just by our own existence, we've broken ground. Yeah. We don't really need to try any harder than this.
No, I'm giving it as little effort as possible. I don't know about you.
Our existence is our gift to the world.
So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I don't know shit. I mean, can you curse on this podcast?
You sure can.
I don't know what about me? I'm a designer.
Okay.
I'm a designer. I'm half of a company at this point, Mule Design. We've been around for 20 years. The other half of the company is Erica Hall. She's smarter than me. We've been, helping people do their shit for 20 some years. I've been, designing shit for longer than that. I mostly write these days because I enjoy writing, because that's design too.
Mm-hmm.
Designing a whole nother thing. And I don't know about you, but I've been sitting in my house for like the last 14, 15 months, buying odd things and, organizing weird corners of the house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I'm a terrible human being, probably.
Well, only 34% of the internet thinks so. That's the statistic I thought.
Well, I mean, as long as it's the right 34%, they probably have a case.
I mean, you have better approval rating than the last president.
Jesus Christ. This is off to a hell of a good start.
I know, isn't it? So what I like to ask my guests, first question right out of the gate.
Who did you have on here last week? You had David Dylan Thomas on here.
David Dylan Thomas, yes.
You should have just had him on again.
I ran out of questions. I asked him all the questions I had. And
you only have to. But he's really smart though. You just have to ask him like one question and then just listen to him for an hour, and you learn all sorts of stuff that you didn't know before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty amazing. Like I listened to him for longer than an hour, and you're just like just soaking it in. He's a good storyteller too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a great conversation that we had.
Yeah. So this is a hell of a downgrade to go from him to me. All right, go ahead.
I wouldn't say so, but
all right.
So how did you get started in design?
Oh Jesus. How did I get started in design? That was a long time ago. I got started in design because I went to art school. I was one of those dum-dums that went to art school. And when I got to art school, I wanted to do art things. And one of the things that was happening when I was in art school was, man, people were like really making like really great like street art and poster art, and and the Guerrilla Girls were doing their thing, and Robbie Canal was doing his thing, and lots of other people like that, and Grand Fury was doing their thing, Fracked Up, and it just felt like where change was happening, where the excitement was, at least for a kid who like grew up in punk rock, where all of like people where people were like making change and being fearless was all happening in this other world that wasn't happening inside a painting studio. It was happening, out on the streets with, people making posters and collages and shit like that. And I said, I want to do that. And that led to me having to, sitting in front of a Mac for the first time, like laying words out so that I could print them out and then like glue stick them onto a poster that I would make. And that was like my entry into design.
Yeah.
Was making that shit. And that led to, eventually like, you know, getting a job as, my first design job was at a desktop publishing company in Austin, Texas. And I don't think, there's nothing like that around anymore. But this was, computers existed, page layout existed, things like PageMaker and Freehand and other wonderful Aldus products. And so you could get a business card or a restaurant menu typeset on a computer, but you didn't have a computer at home yet. It was still a little too early for that. So you go to a copy shop and you would show up with your restaurant menu like all hand printed out. And I was the one who typeset that for you. And I would also make your logo for you. And the best thing about that job was that it didn't matter what the job was, you had 15 minutes to do it. If you could plead your case, your boss might give you an extra 15 minutes. So I have to do like a double-sided trifold restaurant menu. I can't do this in 15 minutes. Okay, you have 30 minutes. So we could get 30 minutes for something like that. If we were making a logo for somebody, we had like an open piece, we had like two open pieces of clip art on our desktop. We had the state of Texas and we had a Longhorn. And whatever the company was, you would drag both of those pieces of clip art into freehand and you would write the company's name on them. And then you would tell them like, you can choose between the state of Texas or the Longhorn. They'd be like, oh, wow, these are both so great. I can't just choose one. That was my first design job. And the thing that I learned at that job was how to produce and how to produce things on time. Because even now, and I mean, we're doing stuff that's, incredibly more complex than that. I still tend to think in terms of like 15 and 30-minute pieces at a time. I mean, I've hired people who, hey, how long will it take you to do this? And, it'll and I'm not like, like an entire company strategy for something. It'll be like this very contained piece of work. Oh, a couple of weeks. And I'm like, I don't know how to measure that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell me an hour, tell me like an hour and 45 minutes. And, Eric has had to pull me aside a few times and just go, you're really fast. Like, you're really fast at this shit.
Mm.
You can't like keep that in mind when you're asking other people for deadlines. So that's been my secret superpower. And that's how I got it. Because my first job was just cranking. You just cranked stuff.
My first program was Quark Express over in that realm.
Quark 3.31, baby.
Might have been after that, but yeah.
Oh, Quark 4 was trash. That's when it went to hell. 331.
Matter of fact, I lived in Orange County, was going to school in 2002. And I believe that was what we were using in the class was 4 something. And it just made no sense. So,
that's a company that shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. Kind of like Basecamp, but we'll get to that.
Oh,
soon.
God, Jesus. Seriously? We're going to talk about that?
Maybe later.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine talking about it.
Yeah.
Just, with the caveat that I know absolutely nothing. I know absolutely nothing. I am running on fumes and assumptions. And just, reaction to what I've seen publicly.
So let's talk about this one first then. How's that?
Oh, Jesus, that one. That was the first book I wrote, Todd.
Yeah.
It was the first book I wrote.
Yeah. And it helped me. It helped me with what I do.
How did it help you?
Well, the part about the contracts.
Yeah.
I was a horrible contract writer. And it was just me. And it was just me for many, many years, decades, couple decades.
Well, who
Most
taught you how
things.
to write a contract?
Me. I had to, well, that book,
Exactly.
your video, fuck you, pay me. And what I was going to ask is if you could tell the listeners, because I got a lot of people that really, I don't know if they are on the design side of things, but can you tell the listeners about the book?
If I mean, first off, you're on the design side of things. You're making shit. You're
Mhm.
helping to make shit real. You're on the design side of things. The book basically is Jesus. It's like an owner's manual to how to be a designer. When I was a youngin, I got a VW bug.
Mhm.
And the first thing I did after getting my VW bug was there was like this hippie VW manual that everybody who had a bug had. We all had the same hippie VW manual. It was all hand drawn and hand lettered. And I think it was a spiral bound, maybe, but it was about yay thick. But the first thing you did after getting a bug was you got the hippie manual. And this was like before you could go to Amazon for this shit,
Mhm.
which you shouldn't do even today. But you went to the store, you found the hippie manual, you threw it in the back seat at your VW, and every once in a while something would happen, and you would just reach back there and be like, all right, which piece of duct tape do I have to move into what position here to fix my bug? It's is it open? Is it smoking or flaming? Smoking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's piece of duct tape number 3.
Yeah. My mother had
Um,
one.
They're great cars, and you can, I mean, you can fix them. You can fix them with, a screwdriver and a piece of tape. And oh God, they were made by Nazis. Everything is shit. Anyway, when I became a designer, nobody handed me like here's a how-to, here's how to do the job. And I always felt like we needed that, especially because, so many, like at that point, like I don't even remember what we were calling ourselves back in 2012, whether we were web designers or digital designers or, whatever the fuck we were calling ourselves. It changes every 3 months. It is an industry like still kind of coming to maturity, like in its awkward teen years. And we had no manual for how to do the job. And so much of the shit that we needed to be able to do, especially in my position running a small little agency, all of the shit that we needed to do to stay alive was stuff that nobody had taught us. I mean, and it was kind of understandable back then because, like I said, we were in our awkward, web design was in its awkward teen years, but now it's like, shit, it's almost 10-year anniversary of that book.
Yeah.
Fucking old. But now it's like I'm not sure that I talk to kids who are just coming out of design school, and I'm not sure things are that much better, if at all.
Mhm.
Like you're not taught like how to write it, how to get your money. You're not taught how to write a contract. You're not taught how to get a client. You're not taught about like how to write a client email. You're not taught like how to present your work to a client. You're not taught like how to hold the line. You're not taught about like how to get elicit good feedback from people. You're not taught how to like gently disregard shit feedback that you don't need. And mostly you're getting it because you were never taught how to ask for the good stuff, but you're not taught any of that. And then you're thrown into this pit and you're like, okay, go be a designer now. And kids are getting run over, their careers are getting derailed, and they end up basically doing becoming like little happy cogs in somebody. Oh, that was shady shit. In somebody's like production process where you just do what you're told. And, i.e. birth of agile, but where, everybody's shown like, 1 square inch of the elephant, told to somehow get milk out of that, and not really, you know, um, told any more than that.
Yeah. Well,
You sure you don't want to edit any of this?
I'm positive.
I'm just rambling,
That's fine.
just rambling.
I ramble all the time.
I know nothing. Anyway, anyway,
Well, the book gave me confidence, like I said, along with the talk, the fuck you pay me talk, to ask what I feel I'm worth.
the book was basically, here's, at that point, we'd been running Mule for 10 years. And it was like, here's all the mistakes I've made in 10 years and how you can avoid making those. So it was like everything that I'd learned in 10 years of running my own shop.
And then you wrote this one, which also helped.
Yeah, so that one, see, oh my God, that matches my glasses.
Yeah.
That to me was the companion piece for the first one. Because, I mean, we worked with so many people over the years who, I mean, like everybody was hiring a designer for the first time, basically, especially the kind of companies that we were working with. And here we show up and, we're real shitty about telling people what we need from them. And then, here are these folks and they're not like really sure how to work with the designer. The designer's not doing a really good job of explaining it. So, there's this vacuum and, somebody's going to jump in and fill it. And that's when, the designer gets all pissed off. Designers get equally pissed off if you tell them what to do and if you don't tell them what to do. It's crazy making. We are crazy people. Anyway, so I wrote this book for people who are hiring designers. It's like it was like the manual that you should have gotten with your Furby.
Yeah.
So now you've hired a Furby.
Yeah. So what makes a good client?
What makes a good client? It's a good question. Money. I mean, let's face it, this is how we earn our living, right? So I mean, this was kind of the crux of the first book. Like, let's talk about money, honestly, because this is why we do this thing. Like, so, if they don't have money, they're not a client. If they do have money, then they might be a client. And, if they have a problem that I want to fix and that I can fix, and that, they're willing to work with me to fix, then that makes them a good client. If they understand, if they're willing to understand what I bring to the table, they make a good client. If they are more interested in solving the problem than in saving their reputation, they're a good client. Basically, what I want from a client is the same thing that I'm willing to give them. If you don't know something, tell me. Because if you can admit that you don't know something, then we can learn. And I mean, I've worked with so many clients who were like so afraid to admit that, we don't know what's going on here. We don't know why this is wrong. So you got to be, I mean, you have to be open to doing good work. And you have to be willing to do it together.
Yeah.
And, honesty.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Yeah. I remember you and Erica telling the story very briefly about it. You correct me if I'm wrong, I probably am, where you had to fire 2 clients total.
Yeah, I think in 20 years, we've maybe fired 2 clients total. And I don't like doing it. I don't like firing anybody, client or employee, because it means that we screwed up at some point. It means that we, screwed up at, possibly evaluating who we were working with. We screwed up somewhere along the line, possibly. I mean, some people just want to watch the world burn. But, every time that we had to do that, I always, look back at, what did we do? Was there a way that we could have fixed this? And, sometimes the answer is no, because one person can't fix a relationship.
Mhm.
But, sometimes you find it. Sometimes like, oh, that's where we screwed up right there. Either, we said something that we shouldn't have, or we suggested something that we shouldn't have, or more likely than not, we ignored a signal. We ignored a signal. That was usually the case. It's like when we were interviewing this client and, they were showing us who they were. And either, we really wanted to work with them for whatever reason, or we really needed the money to keep the lights on. We ignored that in order to get the job. But when we went back, it's like there it was. They were telling us all along how they were going to behave. Firing people should be hard.
Yeah.
It it
Yeah.
I was at like some weird retreat for company owners once, and somebody asked me how can we make firing people easier? I was like, I don't know, be a sociopath. What is
Yeah.
wrong with you?
Yeah.
That I don't think that should ever be easy.
But it seems like it is in tech,
There's
design
a
or
lot,
development wise.
there's a lot of sociopaths in tech, Todd. Yeah.
So to go along with the what makes a good client question that I had, so what signs can somebody usually see that they've teamed up with, for lack of a better term, a bad client?
I'm just do it the way I'm telling you to. I'm paying you. That's, sign number one. They refuse to work with you, basically. I mean, you know, if you're working with the right client, it's somebody who knows their business. They know their business inside out. They might not know how, you know, this little piece of their business, maybe they don't know the digital part that well. Maybe this is a new thing. But, if Stanley's been selling sprockets for 20 years, then, I don't care how much research you're going to do, you're never going to know as much about selling sprockets as Stanley does.
Mm.
So it would be stupid of you not to use Stanley's expertise to the benefit of the project. What you bring is your own expertise, and the two of you working together, it's like shebang. You got a recipe there for making a good project. But so a good client is somebody who you can like have an honest conversation with and shoot ideas around with. Oh, I remember we always approached client relationships like this. A client has to see you as an equal. If a client sees like I would purposely, like, we got contracts every once in a while where we were referred to as a vendor, and I would send those back like, I'm not signing anything that calls me a vendor.
Mhm.
I'm not a vendor, I'm a partner. Yeah, change that. Well, it can't mean anything to you. Well, no, yeah, it does. It does. It means something. If you don't see yourselves as equals, you're not going to have the sorts of conversations that you need to have. And man, there's some difficult conversations that we've had to have with clients, even really good ones, even really good ones where everything went great. And in fact, I'd say that that's probably why things went great, is because we were, willing to have those difficult conversations, and they were open to hearing them.
Yeah.
That, I think that's a key to a good client partner relationship.
Yeah. That book also helped me when navigating through conversations that I had when I was doing freelance projects and dealing with clients that, for instance, one brought in a developer to look at the code that I had done, changed a few things. I saw those changes, and without knowledge from both those books, I killed the project.
Yeah, we had somebody bring in a designer in the middle of a project once because they weren't happy with what we were doing. And they're like, well, my buddy is a designer, so they're going to take over.
Mhm.
So you'll just build what they do. That was one of the clients that we fired because it's like, man, if this is what you want to do it. But you know, we're not going to build this shit for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's explicit. It's right there in the contract that you can't do this.
So now on to the next book.
Are we just doing all of them in order?
Yeah, the ones that I have, anyways. I haven't ordered the one you have. This book. I
Yeah, that book.
thoroughly enjoyed that one.
What'd you enjoy about that one?
From the first page to the last and what was in between. I mean, the
Like,
whole book.
it's a good answer.
The good book. It was the part I like, especially.
I can't see that. My eyes are bad, and I wrote
the,
it.
the snake.
There's a person inside that snake.
There's a person inside that snake, and you have the caption underneath that says, "This person is changing things from the inside."
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
They were providing protein.
Yeah. That happens a lot, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. It does. That book, Ruined by Design, I think, that was the book that I always wanted to write. For some reason, I felt like the other two had to come out first, maybe to establish a groove or to get people to understand, why should I be listening to this person? Because it was like, here's my bona fides. Here's like me helping designers. Here's me helping clients. And then here's me like destroying both your houses. But that's the one that I really wanted to write. And that one took a while.
Yeah.
Took a while to get to it. It simmered for a really long time.
Well, this was also, and I got the zine that you had accompanied with it.
Yeah, I was a little pissed off when you pulled out the paperback because to me the zine is the canonical version.
Okay.
Like so there's a whole story here. I don't know how much you want to get into, but basically I had a nice publisher who did my first two books because they're like very friendly. Here's how you make things books.
Mm-hmm.
And then I presented them with this, like, here's Fire and Brimstone. And they were like, whoa, dude.
Yeah.
We write, like happy how-to manuals. This isn't us. I was like, all right, fine. And I ended up just doing it myself because, that was fun. And I learned some things. And one of the things I learned is you don't have to ask anybody permission to do weird shit with your book. And I always felt like that book needed to be a zine. Like you needed to get your hands dirty reading it. And it should be like, something that designers find in like the dark places and, in like union meetings, a thing that gets passed around and, very like hushed tones, like rolled up and passed between people in hallways and like, shh, don't tell anybody. It's all rolled up. Like we've like it's in like the secret bottoms of like briefcases and stuff. And I got to do that. I got to do that because I didn't ask anybody. And at the time I thought I really want it. I really want it as a zine, like just to hold, because that'll make me happy. And then I'll have this thing that I wanted. And so I contacted this small press in Union City, California. And it was the same press that printed Maximum Rock and Roll, which they had recently just stopped printing because it went, digital only.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so what you're saying is that the press is free? And they're like, yeah, we got nothing. I said, yes, let's do a zine. Well, what kind of ink, what kind of paper, whatever you have for Maximum Rock and Roll, like the same fucking thing. do it
Mhm.
the same way. And they're like, well, the minimum is 5,000. Oh, okay. How big could that be? And like 2 weeks later, which, in the world of book publishing, 2 weeks is like this truck pulled up in front of the studio and just opened up the back gate, and it was just full of zines. And I said, okay, which ones of those are mine? And they were like, what do you mean, which ones? This is all yours. Like, holy shit. What? And I had not thought through to step two at that point.
Mhm.
I had not thought, like, what will I do with these once I have them?
Because you had pallets.
Huh?
You had pallets of these
I did.
zines.
I had pallets of these,
Yeah.
but this is kind of a running theme because I mean, I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse. It's probably both. But when you learn how to do things really quickly, like we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
you tend to just do things without really thinking through why you're doing them or what you're going to do with them when they show up, which, leads to, like, a lot of dumb pins and buttons being made without, by the time they show up, you're like, oh, why'd I do that? But, here we have 5,000 zines showing up at our door, and I had no plan on what to do with them. I just opened one of the pallets and got my zine and thought, yay, this is as much of this as I threw out, as I thought through, was just holding the one. But by the end of the day, I had it all set up to sell them online. And by the end of the day, I made back the cost, just, selling zines, which is something that a publisher would have never let me do.
Mhm. So I just noticed this morning when I grabbed this to put it on my desk that you have a picture of one of our favorite people right here
Yes,
and another one of our other favorite people on this side. Yeah, this side right
yes,
here. Yeah.
yes, they're not good people. You
No,
just noticed that?
I- sometimes it takes a while to sink in.
Todd, it's on the cover.
I know.
Okay.
I glance at a cover and then I go right
Okay.
into the meat and potatoes. You wrote about, as it says right here, how designers destroyed the world and can they do to fix it.
Yeah.
Is it still fixable? Can we still fix it?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Honestly, I don't know. In 2019, the end of 2019, I got in this habit where I write a talk every year. I write it, usually over Christmas break, sometimes, in January. And then, I throw together like a few events locally where, I kind of like workshop the talk. And then I do a talk. Then I, you know, do it for a full year, updating it as I go, adding local flavor when I'm, go to a certain place, making sure that the references are, up to date and stuff. Every once in a while, like, Zuckerberg would do something stupid and there's a new slide that gets inserted. And the talk that I wrote in December of 2019 was called a Small Sliver of Hope. And that was the talk where I was like, okay, if we're going to fix this thing, we've got like our we got about this much space to do it in. Like our opening is about down to here. And if we can all agree that things are broken, and if we can all agree on how to fix them, and if we can all agree on who gets to define these things, and if we can all agree on so many things that we've never agreed on before, then, and only then we might have the smallest sliver of hope of fixing this. And it was supposed to be a hopeful talk. It was like, yes, Woody the Wabbit, we can do it. We can do it. We can become our best selves, which we've never been before. And, we can stop being like racist fuck stains, which we've never done before. And we can, include like the actual best representation from all people in figuring out how to solve this shit, which we've never done before. If we do those things, then maybe, we stand a chance of fixing things. And I got to give that talk once. I flew down to Miami for, Alberto Cairo.
Heard the name.
Well, he put together a thing in Miami, flew me down there, and I did the talk down there. And I remember walking off stage thinking, okay, I know what to fix now. I know what this talk needs now. Because, the first time, it was first pancake, and I flew back home, and like a week later, COVID hit and we were shut down. And it's like fucking everything changed for everybody. And, my lucky ass has been able to sit here in this chair. And, for 14, 15 months now, I've been able to sit here and earn. And, I set up, all sorts of weird, crazy ways to do that. But, I've been lucky enough that, I had the runway to do that. And I had the platform to do that. And people were like, what crazy shit is he up to now? Let's go take a look. And, yeah, I worked hard for that platform, but so many people also worked hard and never got the fucking chance. Never got the fucking chance. So, I've been incredibly lucky that I'm still here. But if I was telling you, if I was telling you like 15 months ago that we had like a very, small, tiny sliver of a chance to fix shit, if we could just agree on certain things right now. I can't fucking tell you that 15 months later, after a pandemic. I can't tell you that we're okay. I can't tell you that I'm okay. We all know people who died in this mess. We've all lost people. Some of us have lost people very, very close. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people have lost their homes. And our biggest problem right now is that there are assholes out there, arguing that this shit isn't even real. And no, I'm not going to get a vaccine because this isn't real. So, every time that we have this opportunity to just lob in an easy victory, it's like, all right, free vaccines. We'll figure out how to get them to you. We'll get herd immunity. Everybody just needs to agree to do this. It's like, okay, that sounds like logistically very fucking difficult. And, let's hope we do that right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, free vaccines for everybody. We know what we need to do. It's going to take some time. We just need to get shots in people's arms. Let's make sure to get shots in people's arms for the people who need those shots the most. And we couldn't even fucking do that right. Like I know, like I have friends who like, were like running to the front of the line, it despite being in the same position that I was, where, they could sit on their ass and earn. Like they were running to the front of the line, like, pretending to be like essential workers and shit. And, these are like fucking tech millionaires, fuck them. And, you confront them about it and they're like, every shot in the arm's a good arm. It's like, fuck you. Like, yes, and like, yeah, we're selfish. I don't know that we deserve to be saved, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't know either. Well, we touch upon the base camp thing. The whole base camp thing started at
Jesus fucking Christ. What who the fuck needed that to happen now?
Apparently DHH and Jason Fried.
Did they get their feelings hurt?
Well, one of them was there would be no more societal and political discussions at base camp.
I shouldn't do that. I've been told not to do that.
Sensitivities are at 11.
Um, I'm sorry that they got their feelings hurt while,
Yeah.
having everything just fucking lined up perfectly for them. Look, I got a lot, I know Jason. I've talked to Jason in the past. I know DHH only through reputation. They always seem, Jason's never been anything but nice to me. I'm a white guy.
Mhm.
So, I'm not, a woman of color who works for him. I'm not, I only know what he's like when he in front of me. And in front of me, he's always been this way. But what the fuck? Why, I can't imagine like this day and age putting out a message that's like, uh, boy, people talking about, not being looked down on and, not being treated like shit at work. That's really getting to us. We're exhausted talking about you demanding to be treated like a human being. That's really exhausting to us. Like, fuck off.
They even mentioned Huxley and what he wrote in The Doors of Perception in this long, and I'll forward you the link, this long blog of his, Jason's, which also shares a link to what David had to say. But there's just, it's.
If we're going to talk about this, there's an open letter that was written by Jane Yang, who's, I believe, a current employee there at base camp, although that might not be true by the time this airs. But she wrote it. She's currently on leave. Do you do show notes and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to add this to the show notes.
Okay.
Because if we're going to talk about this, we should include something by somebody who actually works there.
Right.
And she details out some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I read this letter and I just got angrier and angrier at them. God, the letter's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do this. I'll post it to you, and then you put it in the show notes. But it was really well written and powerful, and it had a lot of details. And reading what she has to say is going to be 5,000 times more informative than hearing anything that we have to say.
Right.
I will say this though. I will say this. Jason has always been a role model for people. By people, and I mean, let's be honest, mostly white dudes.
Yep.
Mostly white dudes. He's been a role model for them. And what he did here was he just gave all of those people cover for acting like assholes.
Mm-hmm.
He just gave every single person, every single white dude who looks up to him cover. And that's kind of not unlike the Trump presidency, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, we get to say the quiet shit out loud now? Nice. Nice. And yeah, you know what? I just compared him to Trump, and there you go.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. He's a libertarian, and that's a fucking problem and a half. But
well, we talked about libertarians before.
Yeah, we have. We have. It turns out, there's a lot more people. I knew a lot more libertarians than I thought, because, when the vaccine schedule was announced in San Francisco, apparently all of my friends are libertarians because they all thought, it was their turn. God, I can't. There's people I just can't even talk to anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway, there was, and when Jason posted that thing, it was kind of like if you were to summarize that whole post, it's like, journalists dig here. If you are looking for a story, you will find one, because there is no way that I post this if I am in my right fucking mind. Like, the only reason I take this horrible private company policy public is because I'm out of my fucking mind.
Mhm. So here's something that I don't know if you're aware of, but there was the Config Europe conference recently, and Robin Canner, who you did a podcast with, was giving a keynote, and she works for the Biden, or she worked for the Biden campaign.
Yes, I believe that's true.
And it was a terrific keynote,
Fantastic.
but yet you had every, and I don't want to assume, but I'm going to assume it's every white guy across the globe that was there. Why do we have to bring politics into this?
How
And
the
it
fuck
just,
can we not? How can we not? I mean, fuck you.
yeah,
The only people who are screaming about that are the people for who everything is working out right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
It's like, I know people in the rural areas that I live in. Okay.
in Maine,
Yes. And the place in New Hampshire where my parents are.
oh, you got two homes?
I did.
God damn.
Not, I'm not Mr. Rockefeller by any means.
Mr. Todd Rockefeller with
Yeah,
two homes.
no.
Two homes.
I
Any of
wa-
them on wheels?
No, none.
Okay.
That was when I was married 20, 30 years ago.
We don't have time to discuss
No,
that.
I don't want to anyways. That bring me right back into therapy again.
That's for our men's circle podcast.
Exactly. But the people I would hear complain about immigrants stealing jobs, taking their money, but they were the first in line to grab those stimulus checks and cash them.
Yeah.
And I made that point very clear to a few of them. We don't talk anymore, which is fine with me because that's less people I have to, talk to during the day. The thing with the conference was just out of hand. And, I've said, after it sunk in with me, yeah, design and development tech is political.
It's always been
Yeah.
political. Yeah, I mean, who you hire is a political decision. The shit that you choose to work on is a political decision. The people you don't hire is a political decision. Nobody, I mean, there's, when you believe that every white dude that walks through the door is inherently capable, at least worthy of an interview, that's a fucking political decision. That's a quota system, is what that is. And these idiots, these like bargain basement edge lords, what they're complaining about isn't that we're talking about politics, is that we're talking about things that don't benefit them by default. So they can all go fuck themselves. They can all line up and go fuck themselves with their tiny little bargain basement edge lord peneyes. And they can all like get in a river and fill it with their man tears and float the fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this what you normally talk about on this podcast?
Well, usually front end stuff, but I try to go.
Well, the bargain basement edge lord penis would be on the front end.
That's on the fringe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be on the front end of
Sure.
Right. No shame. No shame.
None.
No shaming. No
No.
shaming.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm at the part where I usually ask 3 questions to my guests. So I'm going to turn this ship
Do it.
around. But before I do that, though, I do want to hold up that. And if you want to hold up your book,
What? Oh, you mean this book?
yes.
So this is the one that came out this year. This is my pandemic book. Look how handsome this is. Look, there's a
Nice
picture.
book.
A picture of my dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, we were at the beach and he was smelling some weird shit that you probably know what that is. Coastline.
Yeah. I got coastline, but
I don't know
Never
what the
seen
hell that
anything
is.
like that
But it
before.
came out of the ocean, and my dog was like, "Do I eat it? Do I pee on it? Let's do both." Um, but this was the book that I did during the pandemic. It's really it's just essays from the last 10 years that I've thrown together because some of these essays turned into, were used as bits in the other books. Some of them were just out there by themselves. And one of the things that's become really apparent this year is, like, at one point we were like, hey, let's all use these platforms to put our thoughts in. Like, most of the shit in this book was on Medium. They're still on Medium for the time being, but they decided to be union busters. So I'm glad that shit's on here now.
Yeah, because I don't read any. Well, I try not to read anything on Medium.
Anyway, I'm setting up a blog. Do you believe that?
I can. I can believe
Yeah, I'm
that.
setting up a real blog.
Yeah.
It's like 2010 up in here. Yeah.
Well, that book, I still have to get that book because that's another
I
one
can't
I
believe
want
you
to read.
haven't gotten it.
I just,
What's going on?
so many changes lately in the past 6 months.
Oh, do you want me to send you a copy?
You can send me a copy.
I'll send you a copy.
I would appreciate that.
Do you want me to autograph it?
Yeah, you can autograph it.
Do you want me to draw a heart?
You could draw a heart, write a note, whatever you want to do, feel free.
I'm happy to draw a heart in here. I've got
Yeah.
mad love for you, Todd.
Well, I appreciate that, and the feeling's mutual because
And
you have, I have almost finished your zine.
nice.
Number.
I think old dudes like us, we have to be okay expressing mad love for each other.
Absolutely. I have
And
no
for
problem
others.
doing that. Yeah,
There we
I
go.
have no problem. So,
I'm going to Sharpie a heart in this book. I'm going to write your name on it, and I'm going to send it to you.
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it is appreciated.
I'll sneak in some extra photos.
That'd be great because, I would reciprocate with, of course, another gift box of lobster rolls if I have to.
Oh my God, those were so good.
I know, aren't they?
Tell me about the Itsits.
I had
Erica sent Todd a box of Itsits.
about 3-4 dozen of them, it seemed, that were
That's
in my
insane.
were in my freezer for quite a while. I rationed them out pretty good.
That's that shows a lot of constraint right there.
It-
Restraint.
I'm, I'm wishing I could open up that, that freezer and find ones tucked in there somewhere, but I can't. I already looked. They were great. I never had anything like them before, and I thank you both for that surprise that came with the 2 crabs that I still got stuff in there that I made out of those crabs that are in my freezer still.
Dude,
That
those
was
crabs, crabs are like TARDISes. It's like a tiny little crab contains like 10 crabs worth of crab meat. They're bigger on the inside.
Yeah. It took me a good one evening to take all the meat out of it.
It's a lot of work.
Oh,
It feels good though to do that work.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
made chowder, clam rolls, bisque. I made a bunch of stuff out of them.
You made clam bisque?
Yeah.
Wow. How was that?
It's good.
I'm getting hungry just listening to this.
All right.
It's good shit.
I don't have any lobster anymore, though. I did have my lobster rolls the other day, so I can't complain.
Is lobster season over?
No, it's just starting up. They're looking at, it's, I believe, May.
It feels like you're eating lobster year round.
Yes, because I have places that sell it that are open.
Okay.
Fish markets or commissaries like the one I go to that have, they just do lobster rolls, and they do a little bit of side stuff like that, but it's mainly lobster rolls, no pun intended.
What do you have on the side with a lobster roll?
Usually,
like potato salad, or what's the deal? Corn?
no, corn is those. Maybe other people do, but I don't. I leave those to when there's clam bakes and stuff like that.
Fries.
Sides would be fries, chips, or coleslaw for me.
Oh, I like a good coleslaw.
Yeah.
All
A
right.
nice coleslaw that's got apple juice and apple cider vinegar, no mayo.
Nice.
Yeah,
So the little zine
yeah,
that
the
you,
little zine.
the little zine.
You've been doing talks for a few months on these about this topic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got another talk set up in the near future. Do you know Fred Oliveira?
I do not. I
Um,
did see the notification for it though on the Eventbrite app that I have on my phone.
oh, okay. So I'm going to get you a URL for that for your show notes. Fred is a Portuguese gentleman like me. So this talk is about, the Portuguese history of colonization. And what it's really about is how people like white men like me and like you, how we need to just get over our shit. We need to deal with our shit. And how once we start dealing with it, what's on the other side of that can be so much better. Because normally, I mean, we get called out on shit, and we start getting really, really defensive, and we get angry because I mean, our feelings are like a candy bar, and anger is like the chocolate, and it's surrounding the insides, which are like nougat and nuts of like shame and guilt, and all that chocolate anger is just holding it together. So as soon as we get into a conversation with this, it's like anger, 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 anger. And but it's a mask. It's masking all of this guilt and this shame that we feel about, how we fucking behaved, for generations on end. And if you work at a place like Facebook, or Twitter or Uber, like the shame and guilt that you feel about having built stuff like that. And so we get super, super, super defensive when people call us out, Mr. Basecamps, instead of like listening to what they're saying and being like, oh, wait a minute, let me actually hear what they're saying. Let me actually give them the decency of trying to understand why they would be saying this. There's so few people out there who want to pick fights for no reason. Well, actually, no. If you want to pick, white boys like to do that. But honestly, the people who are out there, like, saying, hey, we've been treated unfairly. Hey, we deserve a break. Hey, you've been, systematically fucking us over for ages. They're not doing that for grins. They're not doing that because it feels good. They're doing that because the shit's legitimate. And, we react defensively because we don't want to have to feel the weight of that shame. So we react with anger, and we end up making the whole thing just so much worse. And, if you just let go of that anger and just, get to that juicy nougat of shame, and just start dealing with it, the sooner you can like actually start like, then I have hope for you. Then I have hope. There, we brought it back around.
Yeah, see,
Yeah. All right.
trying to make this production look as little professional as I can.
That ship sailed, Todd.
Yeah. So those 3 questions I have for my guests.
All right.
What about the web these days that excites you, or design, and keeps you excited in what you do?
What about the web
Or design. It could be about design
or
too.
design?
Yeah.
I like to think that there are things going on in the web and in design that I have absolutely no idea about. Not because I'm not paying attention, but because it's like, it's like the shit that kids are doing, like the shit that we were doing when we were kids that, we're not going to tell our fucking parents about this shit. This shit is too cool and they'll ruin it. I like to think that there are kids out there who are doing that right now,
Mhm.
and people like us will be and should be the last to know that it exists. I'm excited for that. Also, I love TikTok
Yeah,
because I have no idea how to use it, and that's fine.
I was on there, but I couldn't. I just
Just fucking enjoy it.
yeah, I did, but it started eating into my time doing other things, and I just can't
Because it's
do that.
really enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if there were
There's
one thing,
there's a freedom that comes. There's a freedom that comes when realizing that not everything has to be built for you.
Mhm.
That's, oh my God, it's so liberating. I just sit back and watch this. This is great. I mean, the shit that kids are doing on TikTok with the editing
Yeah.
and the production values, it's like,
Mhm.
God damn.
The reason why I one of the reasons why is the article I read, and I'll have to pull that up and I'll put it in the show notes, that the CEO or the CEO and the other bigwigs, they factor in the decision on what goes viral and what doesn't.
Probably,
Yeah. So,
somewhat.
so I was like, if this is all pre-planned by them, then what use
I
is
don't,
it
I,
to the
I
little
don't,
guy?
well, I'll tell you this, and about three of your listeners might understand this. Daniel Bryant wasn't WWE champion because Vince McMahon wanted him to be.
Mhm.
So there you go.
So if there were one thing you could change about the web or design that we know today, what would that be? And I think,
Its very existence.
yeah,
I would like the web not to exist.
why?
We be, because we've shown that we can't handle it. I mean, it's we can't handle communicating and being connected to 4 billion people at a time. Like we can like you should need to know the names of everybody who lives on your block before you get access to the next block.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite part of front end development or design and that you really like the most that you nerd out over?
The part when somebody shows me something and I get upset that it doesn't exist yet. Because, you see this every once in a while. Somebody presents you with something, either that they're working on or that they're, about to launch. And you're like, holy shit, how the fuck did that not exist yet? That's perfect. That's great. And and you're like upset. Like, how the fuck are we just getting to this now? I love that.
So you got a bunch of stuff going on. So I usually close out the podcast with letting my guests let the listeners know what's going on with them and where people can find you online. So floor is yours.
Don't listen to me. Don't follow me. Seriously. My God, there's so many like this should be the last podcast that you listen to with two white dudes. It was a good one, but this should be the last one. Go out and find some that don't have any white dudes on them because you're gonna learn shit, and it's gonna feel awkward at first, and you're gonna wonder like, oh wow, am I even allowed to listen to this? But go, just sit back, listen to what people have to say, learn. If it's making you slightly uncomfortable, it's probably because like your rigid little heart and brain have started like growing with new information and feelings, and don't follow me. Don't listen to Todd's show though. There you
Well,
go.
I appreciate that. So, well, you do have the Quarantine Book Club,
Yeah.
which I when and I'm usually there, but when I'm not, I kind of miss it a little bit because I
Well,
enjoy those.
when you're not there, we wonder how you're doing. We worry about you.
Well, I'm staying away
I,
from the Bears, so
So we started Quarantine Book Club when we first went into lockdown 14 months ago, or 15. Are we at 15 yet?
I think we're at, it's
Um,
all, yeah.
and we it was going to be like a 2 week thing. Like, hey, let's do this for 2 weeks. This will be fun. We can't go to the office. Well, let's meet some authors. Let's see who's got a book coming out. Let's talk to them. And at the beginning, we scheduled two a day, 5 days a week. And I mean, at that point, people were like, yay, Zoom, it's fun, it's crazy, it's new. And I'm going to talk to authors. And we had publishers calling us like, hey, how did you do this? It's like, well, I mean, it's, it's
Yeah.
not hard.
No.
Like hire a fucking kid. They know how to do this shit.
Yeah.
I've seen them edit shit on TikTok. So, and over the last 15 months, we've kind of like ramped down to what we can sustain. And right now, I think we're doing it once a week, maybe, I think is the current official schedule. Once a week, maybe.
Okay. And then you have your workshops, presenting with confidence.
Workshops are going ballistic right now. I love doing them because people like me. Like the first time I ever presented work to a client, I threw up.
Mhm.
I was a mess of nerves. It was awful. I hated it. And I think before going in there, my boss was like, "We're all depending on you." And I was like,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of like, hey, jump out of a plane. We're all counting on you. It's like nobody had ever taught me how to do this. Nobody had ever given me tips on how to do it. It's just something that people expect designers to be able to do, and yet it's a totally different skill than and any of the shit that we're taught. And in fact, a lot of designers are just straight up lied to. And you're told that, well, good work, it sells itself, by lazy teachers who have failed at life and should not be allowed near children. But I teach folks how to get past that fear, and how to give them some tricks on how to present their work, so that when they're in those situations, they're not freaked out anymore. I love doing that.
Yeah, they helped me. I even did too.
You did. You were
Because-
great.
Well, thank you. Because the first time I ever presented to somebody, I sweat through a t-shirt and my dress shirt. And
It's nerve-wracking.
it is. It
It's
looked like I
absolutely
just
nerve-wracking.
run the Boston Marathon and then
Yeah.
presented to these people. It was
That could
awful.
not have gone well.
It didn't. But I still got the job. I don't know how, but I still got the job. It wasn't.
Well, congratulations.
It was like a Hail Mary. So,
Got it, because you were a white boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Privileged.
We don't really have to do too well at job interviews. You know that. They just give them to us.
So I know, because I read the newsletter, and I'll put the link to that so you get hopefully get, 2 of the 4 people that listen to this podcast subscribe. You have any other projects going on?
I've got the workshops going on. I'm mailing zines out to people. I'm actively taking notes, trying to figure out like what the heck I want to do next. Got the the book club. I honestly, all I can think of right now is that next Tuesday I get my second dose.
Mhm.
I get my second dose on Tuesday, which means 2 weeks from that, I will be fully vaccinated. The president just said this morning that, if you're fully vaccinated, you can go out maskless as long as you're not in a crowd. I've been dutifully wearing my mask, but, as somebody who also wears glasses and a mask, fucking pain in the ass. But, you do it. You do it because you're not a selfish prick. But I'm really, really looking forward to not having to do that, and looking forward to other folks not having to do that. Me and some friends here who live in town, we've figured out like when the last of our group is getting full vaccination, achieves full vaccination, and that's the day we're planning a barbecue. And oh my God, we might need some lobster for that.
I get my second shot on Monday.
Nice.
So if I get the invite, I'll fly out with the lobster.
I am not flying until the end of the year.
I'll take that chance. I actually have a flight booked in June.
Do you?
I do.
I still can't do it because I see like videos of people in airports and,
Yeah.
just fighting with each other and arguing with each other. And it's like, I can't do it. We might like, maybe we'll rent a cabin. Maybe we'll drive up the coast. I mean, we live in like this most beautiful fucking part of the world. And there's like a sliver of the California coast where, the pot growers won't kill you, that has cabins that we might stay at for a
I mean,
while.
I could drive 3 days out there, but
I don't do that.
lobster after 3 days in the car is not a good idea.
No, plus, I mean, if we go to Maine, like we could see Maine things,
Good.
which, I just wrote down Stephen King and then ran out of things.
Well, you're
Cats.
talking about mm,
Those big
Uh,
cats,
the Fisher cats,
the Maine Coon cats.
coon cats. Well, we got Fisher cats too.
What's that?
They're they're ornery. They're big cats, and if you do a search on them,
All right.
they're mangy.
Oh, good. That sounds
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. Anyway, I gotta go. We're like a half an hour over. This is amazing.
Acadia National Park.
Oh, we're talking Maine things still.
Yeah. Plenty
Okay.
of stuff. Plenty of stuff to keep you riveted. I could take you to where the big blueberry gift shop is. That's shaped like a blueberry.
My first trip, once we're fully vaccinated, might be renting a car and driving to Waldrug.
You lost me on that one.
Look it up.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I really do have to go.
Okay. So I want to thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure.
I want to thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll have to do this again sometime.
All right. Hey, bye, Todd's listeners.
And yes, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Front End Nerdery podcast. I'll be back next month with a new
Brought
guest.
to you by My Pillow.
No, absolutely not. New conversations about front end design development and other topics. If you would please
Brought to
rate
you by the
this-
Joe Rogan Show.
Absolutely not. Oh, geez, no. If you would please rate this podcast on your podcast device of choice, like, subscribe, and watch on the Front End Nerdery YouTube channel. Links, transcripts, and show notes are there. I'm Todd Libby, and this has been the Front End Nerdery podcast. Thank you, and see you next time.